Beneath the crushing depths of Lake Superior rests a tomb, a steel behemoth silenced by a November gale. But the latest drone footage? It's rewriting history. Nearly half a century after the SS Edmund Fitzgerald vanished, a state-of-the-art, underwater drone plunged into the abyss. What did it find? Flaws, failures, and a shocking truth that chills the blood. Why did this titan of the Great Lakes disappear without a trace? Was it just a storm? Or was it something far more preventable, far more sinister? Forget the legends, forget the myths. Prepare to witness the real story, revealed by eyes that see in the dark. What the drone uncovered at the bottom of Lake Superior isn't just wreckage. It's a warning, a colossus of steel. The year, 1958. The place, River Rouge, Michigan. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald wasn't just launched, she was unleashed. At 729 feet, she was the undisputed queen of the Great Lakes. Her mission: haul massive loads of taconite iron ore from Minnesota's mines to the industrial heartland. But the Fitzgerald was more than just a workhorse. She was a symbol of American might. Commissioned by an insurance giant and christened after its chairman, the Fitzgerald turned heads. Her sleek lines, her powerful engines, her sheer size, she was a marvel of engineering. From 1958 to 1975, she conquered the Great Lakes. Voyage after voyage, over 700 crossings, more than 26,000 tons of ore per trip. She was nicknamed the Pride of the American Side. To the families watching from shore, she was a legend in motion. Her horn, a ghostly echo, her image, immortalized in song. But life on the Great Lakes is relentless. Ice, fog, storms that could swallow ships whole. For 17 years, the Fitzgerald battled the elements, a steel titan defying the fury of the lake. By the 1970s, she was considered unsinkable. November 9th, 1975, loaded with iron ore bound for Detroit. Everyone assumed it was just another routine run. The Arthur M. Anderson, another freighter, sailed nearby. Bad weather was brewing, but both crews were seasoned. On the surface, everything seemed normal. But Lake Superior was about to unleash hell. The Fitzgerald sailed straight into it on her final voyage. A voyage that would end in silence. Vanished. The morning of November 10th, 1975. The Fitzgerald fought through the storm. Captain Ernest McSorley, a veteran of the Great Lakes, maintained radio contact with the Anderson. They were navigating the storm together for safety. The squall intensified, winds exceeding 70 mph, waves towering over 25 feet. Visibility near zero. The weather reports were wrong. Both ships were caught in a nightmare. By afternoon, the Fitzgerald was struggling. 30 p.m. McSorley radioed the Anderson. "We have a bad list. Lost a vent. One of the hatch covers is giving us trouble." But his voice was calm. He said the situation was under control. The storm raged on. 7:10 p.m. The last message from the Fitzgerald. McSorley: "We are holding our own." No panic. No desperation. Then, silence. Moments later, the Anderson's radar screen went blank. The Fitzgerald, gone. No distress flares, no mayday calls, no wreckage. The ship and all 29 men vanished. The Coast Guard launched a massive search. Planes, helicopters, ships, debris, oil slicks. Something catastrophic had occurred. Eventually, the wreckage was found, split in two, 530 feet down. The bow, upright in the sediment. The stern, twisted and inverted. But the discovery only deepened the mystery. How could a ship that had weathered hundreds of storms collapse in minutes? Rogue waves, structural failure, no one knew for sure. The crew had no time to signal for help. The silence became part of the legend. Not just that she sank, but how she disappeared, without warning, without a cry. The silence for the families was deafening. No last words, no goodbye. Decades passed. Investigations continued. But the fundamental question remained. How did one of the largest vessels on the Great Lakes vanish so silently? Until now. Because almost 50 years later, technology returned to the depths. And what the underwater drones revealed would shock the world. The eerie silence would finally be broken. Theories and a 50-year debate. The aftermath of the Fitzgerald sinking sparked a frenzy. Grief, confusion, accusations. Everyone wanted answers. But the ship had vanished without a trace. The Coast Guard's 1977 report blamed flooding through damaged or improperly secured hatch covers. A small failure, repeated and ignored, that became fatal. The crew's families were outraged. They felt the report unfairly blamed Captain McSorley and his men, suggesting they couldn't secure basic hatches was an insult. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, proposed a catastrophic structural failure, stress fractures, metal fatigue. Extreme weather. A perfectly seaworthy vessel could break apart under brutal conditions. Others pointed to uncharted shoals or rogue waves. With so many theories and so little evidence, the truth remained elusive. Limited dives in submersibles yielded grainy images. Early sonar provided only rough outlines. The deeper forensic tale remained hidden. For years, historians and engineers debated the cause. The wreck became more than just wreckage. It became a symbol of unanswered questions. But speculation wouldn't unlock the mystery. New eyes, better equipment, a willingness to let the wreck tell its story. In 2023, underwater engineering teams equipped with cutting-edge drones and 4K cameras were ready to make history. Not just excavating the wreck, but ending the debate. A drone dive into darkness. Before dawn, the research vessel hovered above the Fitzgerald's final resting place. Nearly 50 years had passed. The wreck remained undisturbed, 530 feet below. The remotely operated vehicle, ROV, was unlike anything used before. High-powered floodlights, 4K cameras, advanced sonar, AI-assisted scanning systems, surgical precision. The drone slipped into the water. The surface, deceptively calm. Inside the vessel, screens lit up, murky water, ghostly outlines, then structure, a mammoth steel form. There she is, someone breathed. The bow of the Edmund Fitzgerald stood eerily upright. Years of sediment coated every surface. Fish darted across the screen. The drone circled slowly. Torn cargo hatches, battered superstructure. The stern, twisted and inverted. But what shocked the team was the silence and the absence of explosive damage. The wreck gave the impression of a ship at rest, almost peacefully. But somewhere in that stillness lay the account of 29 lost men. The drone began a detailed survey, millimeter resolution in total darkness. Every rivet, every gash, every scrap of paint. Then, an unexpected event. An engineer leaned in to inspect a cargo hatch. "Back it up 3 feet," she said. The drone operator complied. What the camera showed next forced silence across the room. A clamp was missing. Missing clamps and a gaping hole in the deck. Evidence that changed everything. As the drone swept over the wreck, the true scale of the findings began to emerge. A structural survey had become a forensic autopsy. The missing clamp was just the beginning. The drone's lights revealed more. Bent, damaged, entirely absent clamps. The very hardware designed to seal the cargo holds. Some clamps looked violently torn off. Others were twisted backward. It wasn't a localized failure. It was widespread. Skeptics could no longer deny the reality. Visible, measurable, documented problems. Then the air vent pipe on the forward hatch, sheared off at its base. an open steel ring leading directly into the cargo hold, violently removed, impacted by waves. The vent, once essential for air circulation, was now a funnel for freezing water. That's a 4-inch open hole straight into the ship's lungs, a structural engineer said. Missing hatch clamps, a destroyed vent. In 25-foot waves and 70 mph winds, the Fitzgerald wasn't just battling nature. It was taking on water at an unknown rate. Captain McSorley's last message took on a new, tragic meaning. He had no idea how fast things were deteriorating below deck. Simulations showed water entering the hold at over 4,000 gallons per minute. At that rate, even a vessel as large as the Fitzgerald would become dangerously unstable in 30 minutes. Ultra HD footage showed sediment streaks indicating the direction of water flow. Some clamps appeared to be retrofits or replacements. Not original. Parts, casting doubt on maintenance and inspection practices. A history of stress on hatch hardware, ignored or underestimated. Silent flooding may have doomed the ship. Why this terrifies the experts. The drone's footage shook the maritime world. Engineers, historians, and shipbuilders were disturbed. The images showed how any vessel of its era might fail. Quietly, invisibly, fatally. Missing hatch clamps and a shattered air vent weren't minor wear and tear. They were critical failure points. The clamps were the only barrier between Lake Superior and the cargo holds. Many were missing, fractured, or bent. Water had free access to the hull. The scariest part, this vulnerability had gone unnoticed. No panic signals, no emergency flares. McSorley's last message: calm, an architect of the sea. This wasn't a ship breaking apart. This was a ship slowly drowning. The horror is in the silence. Everything seemed normal until it didn't. The Fitzgerald was going full speed, unaware that the bow was being pulled down by thousands of gallons of freezing water. The torn vent pipe created a nightmare scenario, a direct opening into the ship, unprotected, unsealed. Combine that with failing hatch clamps, and you had an unstoppable assembly line for water, up to 4,000 gallons per minute. Other Great Lakes, freighters of that time, shared similar designs. The Fitzgerald had no backups, no secondary seals, no double hull barriers. Survival depended on every clamp being in perfect working order. The Coast Guard's original report was criticized for being speculative. Now, it's backed by physical evidence. But the evidence didn't assume negligence. It indicated design limitations. The Fitzgerald's design hadn't evolved to keep pace with long-term wear and the power of Lake Superior's storms. The ship didn't just sink. It was doomed by silence, age, and assumptions. The questions it leaves behind. The expedition brought answers, but not peace. Haunting details confirmed the worst suspicions. But for the families, the footage reframed the tragedy. Not as an unavoidable disaster, but as a silent failure that could have been prevented. For nearly 5 decades, the Fitzgerald had been a mystery. Speculation filled the void. Rogue waves, freak accidents, sabotage, curses. The Fitzgerald became a legend. The expedition stripped away the mythology. The truth was harsher. Structural failure. A gradual disaster. The findings absolved the crew. They shifted the focus from human error to design flaws. McSorley's last message was likely an accurate assessment. He just couldn't see the internal flood. The findings also darkened institutions, obsolete safety features, a regulatory framework that allowed deficiencies to escape, scrutiny, no flood detection backup, no secondary hatch seals. Why weren't these vulnerabilities vetted? Which other vessels were just as vulnerable? Would the Fitzgerald have survived another storm? Or was her end inevitable? The footage has ignited fresh debate. Engineering departments, shipping regulators, and historical societies are reviewing the data. Some are calling for revised safety standards. For the families, the response is more emotional than technical. The footage brings them closer to their loved ones. They know what transpired. The ship succumbed to design limits. The men did everything right. They were simply sailing on a ship that wasn't as strong as they thought. The Edmund Fitzgerald's final secret has been revealed. Not through myth, but through steel and clearer eyes. What we saw at the bottom of Lake Superior wasn't just wreckage. It was a message. The truth doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it sinks without a sound.